what we're getting. We're not paying anything as a generalized contract. Other than that, currently they're scheduled for a couple days a week. However, that schedule will change as we need more or less done. And as our operators become licensed, then we'll phase FRM out, most likely. But when we get to that point, then we'll take appropriate action. Again, this is time and material based, so there's no upfront or long-term commitment. It's just as we go. The reason it's coming to the board is the projected cost for 24-25 is approximately $80,000. However, due to the staffing shortage, we would be saving approximately $150,000. So the real cost is approximately a savings of $70,000. Those are just approximate because we don't know what the year is going to bring us. So.
Okay, board comment, Dr. Collins?
No comments at this time.
Dr. Baker?
Yes. So where are we in the process of getting our current employees the proper licensing?
So they're working on the study material to take their tests. They've completed.
Sorry.
They completed part of their training to get their operator training licenses for wastewater. However, they have to have 1,800 hours of wastewater experience before they can actually get a license. So for them, it's the better part of a year or more before they have enough hours accumulated to get that. Because it's wastewater only, it's not how many hours that they work in general. For water, it's a little bit simpler, but it still takes some time. It's probably 5 or 6 months from when somebody's hired to when they get a water license. So they are working on that, and we're pushing them to get their licensing, but it is a lengthy process.
And then looking at this hourly rate schedule that was attached, a licensed operator, where do they fit? I see.
So the
chief operator or wastewater operator, is that a licensed person?
So almost all of these that are listed here are licensed in some fashion. The person or the position that we would be paying for generally is either a wastewater water operator, or maintenance compliance specialist, or a maintenance technician, with a range of $175 to down to $140. We do pay for other project management on a very small basis because those people do have people who watch them. So we get to pay for that too, which is awesome. But generally the rates that we're paying are between $140 and $175 for a person actually here.
And then one other thing on their services description, they got prepare all reports for the water and wastewater collection systems. Is that something that they're currently doing, or that they're going to do, or
That's something that they're currently working on. Part of what they were brought on to do initially was to help get us through the transition for compliance into our new operating permit. As the only person here that is a licensed operator, I don't have enough time to do that. So we brought them on to bring their knowledge in to basically get us on track, get all of our reporting straightened out. Because all the reporting we're doing now is basically 500% of what we had to do previously. So once it's all straightened out, we have all of our sampling and our testing in line, and our reports in line, then and we have staff to do those reports, then we can start phasing them out if we choose to.
Thank you.
Dr. Davis?
Yes. You said they need 1,800 hours. Can't they, if you're a licensed operator, can't you do a little bit of training yourself?
think I understand your question.
Well, you said you're a licensed operator. You can operate the treatment plant because you're a licensed operator and so on. And we know we had one before and he's gone. And so you've got two more. I understand they have to be tested and everything, but then you said $1,800 after they qualify that they have to have doing that job or running the plant?
So, I guess for clarification, the process to get water licenses is different than the process to get wastewater licenses. In water, basically you take training to get you to a point where you understand the processes, the mechanics of generalized water systems and treatment systems, and then you can go take the test whenever you're ready for that.
Right, well,
So in wastewater, it's not like that. In wastewater, you have to, by the requirements of licensing, take what amounts to 12 hours of coursework to even apply for your operator in training. So once you apply for your operator in training, then you have, from the date that they issue that, you have to have shown that you have worked in wastewater for 1,800 hours. The only alternative is if you go to school and you have some college credit for chemistry, physics, mathematics, something in that area. Generally, people coming into this industry don't have that. So unless they do it at the same time, which is not really it's not usually what happens. So once they have that OIT, then they have to work in wastewater. So they would have to work at our plant for 1,800 hours. Normally, a person will work 2,080 hours in a year. So if that's all you did, then within a year, you would have enough hours and you'd be licensed. Because we're split between water and sewer here, they get maybe 50%, maybe 30% of their time in wastewater. So it takes considerably longer to get 1,800 hours. But I don't have any control over that. If you're an OIT, let's say you were an OIT and you work for me, then I, as a licensed operator, would have to manage you. I would have to make sure that what you're doing is correct. I would be responsible for all your actions, and you have to have somebody supervising you or readily available all the time. You can't be by yourself.
okay, my next bit, are you a licensed wastewater?
Yes,
And
water.
okay. Well, like I said, you know, so you could be supervising them and helping them pass the test instead of bringing in these other people.
So these other people aren't supervising them or helping them pass the test.
Yeah. Well, what are they there for?
They're there to give me relief so I can do my job as general manager instead of everybody else's job as operator.
Right. All right.
Technical difficulties.
Any public comment? Approach the lectern, sign in. This time, I will entertain a motion.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor for Resolution 2024-29 to authorize the general manager to contract with Fluid Resource Management for contract operator compliance and maintenance management services. Seconded by Director Calvins. Have a vote. Let's do Director Gregory? Yes. Director Baker?
Yes.
Director Davis?
No.
Director Calvins?
Yes.
Director Smiley?
Yes.
4, 1, 0 absent.
Item 7. Contract amendment number 1 for recycled water pipeline project CEQA. The bid support services for the water systems consultant, Inc., WSC, approved by 3/5 vote.
This item is an amendment to the contract that we currently have with Water Systems Consulting, who is also our district engineer, for the recycled water pipeline project that goes from the treatment plant to the vineyards on the other side of the freeway. The majority of the increase is due to changes in changes to our CEQA documentation for the mitigated declaration, based on comments by Mr. Powell, who is regularly attending here, and the county assembly system. The county in particular was asking for additional information, which is at additional cost. And in the same, the depth of the CEQA documentation that was prepared before was meant to be an amendment to the original environmental documents that were approved in 2022. However, the changes put this into a standalone document, which is a little bit more effort. The standalone documentation was originally proposed when this project was started. However, it was agreed at that time that we would go as an amendment to save costs, but everyone involved at the time strongly felt that an amendment was appropriate. However, as the project progressed and based on the comments from the county, here we are. The other part of it is for bid phase support, which was also an optional task in the original contract that was omitted intentionally so that we could better identify the project and we could better identify the scope of bid support that we were going to be seeking. So both of those are being brought back. At this point, the total change is set at $37,764. And although it is a contract or an amendment, the actual total contract cost, including that, was included in the original approval. So it's really not approving more money, it's approving an amendment to the signed contract.
Okay. More comment? Director Calvins?
No comments on this item, Mr. President.
So you said that you're not, this isn't a change of the money, so what is, it's just verbiage that has to be?
So technically it's a change in value of their contract. However, the resolution that was passed by the board before signing the contract was for a dollar amount above what this total
Oh,
is.
I see.
So the total.
So we had already taken care of it.
Yes, the total right now, including the increase, is $209,780. However, that is less than what was approved by resolution 2022-67.
Okay, that's all I'm coming there.
Director Baker?
Yeah. So looking at this, so the original grant was for $1 million?
Yes.
Okay. And then of that, part of that grant was this initial contract of $172,000. So it's reducing the amount of available monies to the grant for other construction. So it's not like it's coming from somewhere.
It's
So
coming from-
we're gonna have less money for something else.
Well, not for something else. I mean, we're
For this
project. So the project as a whole,
Right.
this additional $37,000 is coming out of that project as a whole. So instead of, we're paying for it in planning instead of paying for it in construction.
So this is like a 22% increase to this deal.
If I can add, part of the issue is the comments from the county, and we looked at those, and they're poised from what it looks like. If this additional CEQA analysis is not done, then you could be sued under CEQA. It's going to cost you a lot of money. It's not correct money. So, and CEQA is quite a hot topic these days.
Right. Okay, so then if we fall short, in the construction or whatever the part of it, then the district would have to absorb that $37,000.
Which is still the case. I mean, that was the case initially.
Right.
But unfortunately, inflation is really eating into all projects at this point. The although the original project was proposed to be less than the entire project was supposed to be less than the $1 million. It will be over $1 million. We don't know how much right now. However, the county has indicated that if there's money left over from the other grants from the Sigma grant, that they would try to direct that towards this project to help offset our costs.
Thank you.
Mr. Davis,
I don't have any.
any public comment? Anybody approach the lectern and sign in? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll second.
I don't think they have a first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion.
So how are we doing that here?
So we have our first by Anthony. Second by Director Gregory.
Yes. For a contract amendment for recycled water pipeline project Sequent Bid Support Services Water System Consultant, second by Director Gregory. Director Baker?
Yes.
Director Gregory?
Yes.
Director Davis?
Yes.
Director Calvins?
Yes.
Director Smiley?
Yes.
5-0.
On item 8, St. Louis Terrace, SLT, booster pump and tank alternatives analysis technical report.
So this will be a fun one, but in December, the board authorized Water Systems Consulting to create to update our water hydraulic model and prepare alternatives analysis for the booster pump station with location for the pump station and the new tank. As part of that, Water Systems Consulting updated our water hydraulic model and prepared three different alternatives. At the request of the board and myself, it was the three alternatives were a new booster pump station and storage tank located near the intersection of Power Road and River Road next to the power substation. A new booster pump station located at the existing St. Louis Terrace tank site. And the third alternative, which was developed by WSC, is a new booster pump station located at the intersection of Power Road and River Road with a new gravity storage tank location located on Cross Canyon Road. That location is actually outside. The tank location would be outside of the district, which is just information, not here. As part of their scope, the technical memo that you have before you has all the alternatives analyzed, summarized into the background, alternatives analysis, cost estimate, and the final recommendations for the different sections. All three proposed alternatives designed to provide the same sort of end result. However, there are significant cost construction differences between the three. Some of those differences are that options 1 and 2 allow for deferred construction of the tank, separate from the pump station. Alternative 3 would require the tank be built with the pump station. Alternative 2 would require a separate feed main to be installed from River Road Bridge to the SLT tank site. Alternatives 1 and 3 would require some form of a pump station at Power Road and River Road. Alternative 3 would require additional land purchases or easement purchases to facilitate necessary water line installation. Alternative 1 and 3 will require purchase of an easement at the corner of Power Road and River Road. And alternative 2 would require purchase of additional property when the existing tank is replaced. Without referencing costs or difficulty and only considering the long-term benefit, alternative 3 is actually the best because it mainly relies off of gravity and is more resilient in case of power outage or other emergency. However, option 3 is also the most expensive. So I mean that's basically where we're at. The original proposal by myself was to build it at Power Road and River Road. That option is logistically the easiest. And that's my position with it. As being logistically the easiest, it always is also the cheapest because it's less difficult to build. Alternative 1 and 3 both require buying property in the beginning. Option 2 will require buying property when the tank is replaced. And that's basically where we're at. The report is pretty lengthy. I don't know if the board has read that or not, but if you have any answering questions about it.
Calvin's?
Yes, first off, thank you, Mr. Dodds, for the presentation. I did read the whole report. I'm not in favor of option 2. Option 3, I do see that it has some additional costs compared to option 1. Some of my questions, though, if we're looking long-term, though, the place you're proposing the tank in option 3, you're also separately from this project, you're looking at having to run a recycled water line out that direction. I don't see why you can't reach out to the water district that operates in that area or out to those property owners who would be benefiting specifically from the recycled water, like J. Lower, and see if we can't figure out a way to reduce some of those costs through either a cost sharing mechanism or something else like that. Because honestly, since I've worked in utilities, you're probably going to run a recycled water line, and then you're going to have a massive pressure problem trying to supply water to those vineyards. And I think that trying to be logistically big picture is going to be a lot more beneficial in the long run. So, and I know I'm talking about two separate things, but the thing is, though, you need purchase property, you need a failure to put a booster station for the recycled water line, and you also have to feel those costs to run that pipeline out to get to your district. So, I think you need to look at both those tracks under option 3 before you tell me what the cost estimate is on that.
So, what we're talking about right now is only for potable water.
Right, but you're going to tell me.
But it's, so let's say we use option 1 or option 3, or alternative 1 or alternative 3. They would both require a booster station at Power Road, River Road, and as Director Calvins was stating, if we were to bring recycled water out there, then we would have space to build a booster station there to pressurize to get farther out. Currently, we don't have any sort of immediate plan to take recycled water out there unless grant funding is made available for it. Given the current climate of the state, I doubt that that's going to be available in the very near future. In looking at option or alternative 3, if we were to choose that option, then it may behoove us to take 2 lines out there instead of 1 to address kind of what Anthony is alluding to, which is being able to have recycled water farther out. That doesn't change that we would still have to build a pump station and still have to get recycled water from the treatment plant to that pump station. Generally, I'm not in favor of building infrastructure like that this far in advance. If we already had a network designed and started to get to that point, then yes, it would be to our advantage to build it now. Since we don't have that, I wouldn't really recommend doing it at the same time because then you may be putting in a line for several millions of dollars that either sits idle or by the time you actually use it is undersized or inelegant.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate the feedback on that.
You're welcome.
I don't think so.
Director Baker?
So, in a timeline of things that are going to happen, kind of, what are we looking at? Is this, how far in the future is all this?
So this is near term. So we've applied for grants to build it or to do planning for it. Theoretically, we would, if we were awarded a grant, then we would move faster on it. However, in the near term, what we would be doing is starting the lower cost items, purchasing property, which is the next item. But doing this report or this memo is one of the first steps we would just continue knocking off things until we get to the point where we have a final design, and then go into construction. This is something that's been needed for several years. It's something that's identified in our master plan to move forward in order to supply sufficient fire flow and water pressure to the terrace. This is necessary for that. So we have the need is right now projected, if all went correctly and on the right track, then within the next year we would be in some sort of contract for planning, and hopefully within a year after that we have completed the planning and had construction potentially underway. So maybe a 2 or 3 year project.
So we said we have applied for the grant.
So we've applied for the grant.
So we haven't received it.
We haven't received anything. It takes them a while to process them. We applied in December, I think. The state, I think, looks at 1 page at a time per month.
How long was the grant? Okay, how many? Page a month, okay.
So it does take them quite a while. We haven't received anything one way or the other.
But to get pressure to the terrace, that's the
end goal is to increase fire flow on the terrace and
Right.
increase domestic pressure on the terrace.
So if we go for like, on number 2, we already have the tank up there, right?
Yes.
Okay. And number 1, are we dependent on a tank
In number 1.
in number 1 to get pressure, or is that pressure station going to give us the additional pressure to the terrace without a tank?
So in option 1, we can build the booster station and not build the tank.
Okay, gotcha.
Or, the end goal would be to build a booster station and build a tank so that the terrace has enough stored water to survive for however long it took to rebuild the bridge if we were to lose the bridge or lose the line in the bridge.
Right, we have an existing tank, and we got this pressure station, they would have the pressure they need.
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha. Good.
So the initial concept was, or is, for that alternative is to have a booster station that could be standalone, but is designed to work with initially a 250,000 gallon tank, and then in the future, a second 250,000 gallon tank, so that the terrace alone would have 500,000 gallons of stored water in the event that we had well failures or some other catastrophic event where we weren't able to bring water to the terrace.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else want to talk?
No, I said Director Davis. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think one of the main things we need is we need to get pressure to the terrace. You have a well down there, the SLT well, and up above you've got a 50,000 gallon tank. And I'm sure it's still working, right?
It still holds water, yes.
All right, still holds water. And you have the option of using that SLT well to pump up to that tank, correct?
Yes.
And then you also have the option of pulling water from that huge tank across the freeway there, down to that tank, correct?
So the way the system works right now is it's all on gravity. So when the tanks have water, everything in between has a relative pressure based on what the tank level
Right,
is.
exactly.
And they float back and forth.
I know, and that's why you don't have any pressure on the terrace.
Correct.
So why not just put a booster pump down by the SLT well, and that would solve the problem pretty short.
So the problem with that, which has been discussed several times, is that, so right now everything floats together. We have both tanks, they float together, the pressure below those tanks is relative to the elevation of the land below it. So when the tanks go up and down, they go up and down together, and the pressure sort of stays the same for everybody in between. as soon as you take and put a booster pump at the well site, which is down at the bottom of the hill from where the tank is, yes, you'll get water from that tank to that booster site. However, when you do that, you have to increase the pressure on that side of the river. So at the bridge, you have a valve basically preventing this pressure from coming over here. So this would still be gravity. Over here would be pressurized. So although Mr. Davis is correct, we would get water from that tank, it would come down to that booster station and it would pump into the system. Without a feed line from the bridge to that tank, we would only have water from the SLT well.
Right.
Which, if you put all your eggs in that basket, then if you have a problem with that tank, it's over. If you have a problem with that well, it's over. So you have no water if you don't have that well running. You have no water if you don't have that tank.
I know exactly what you're trying to say, but what I'm trying to tell you, you could run that well on that tank, put a valve between the big tank and down to the little tank and so on. But if something happened to that well or the tank or something, then you use the water from across the freeway.
So part of what we're required under state law to do is to provide, for all our existing customers, we have to provide a minimum of 20 PSI, 20 pounds at the meter all the time. So if nothing changes on the terrace, then we can do that. We don't even need to talk about this booster station. We just have a problem with fire flow, which,
I know, that's what everybody's saying.
just unfortunately lost 2 homes over there. And hopefully they had enough pressure to do something with. I don't know. I wasn't there.
Like I said,
The issue really becomes if they develop that property next to the water tank, if they develop Pretty Smith, if they develop anything that is at the same or near the same level as that water tank, then either they have to have a booster pump station that will basically prevent them from building, or we have to provide a booster pump station at the cost of everybody on the terrace. So by putting it at the terrace well, you have to bring water from the east side or the west side to the east side somehow and get it to that tank, which is why I initially proposed having all of that right at the corner of Power Road and River Road, because then you can isolate it there. The other issue with using the same 50,000 gallon tank, other than it being undersized and providing fire flow for maybe 10 minutes, is that we only own the little circle of land under that tank. We don't own anything else around it. So if we